Alrighty, guys. Good evening. Good evening. Ryan here. We're on solo today. Caleb is taking the day off, gearing up for a potential active day tomorrow here in the state of Indiana. We're going to go ahead and break down what to expect, though, for the severe weather threat for tomorrow. So pop in chat, guys. Let me know if you can hear me and where you're watching from. I'll wait a couple seconds here for people to file in. Let me know where you're watching, how your day's gone. You guys enjoying this nice weather? I know I am. Can't beat upper 60s and low 70s. All right, we got 13 in here. Let's go ahead and get started, guys. We have a couple of things to touch base on. We have a slight risk, level 2 out of a scale of 5 in place for western portions of Indiana here. That's west of South Bend, all the way down through Indianapolis, through Bloomington, down toward Jasper, sitting just north of the Evansville area. This is a slight risk for severe weather. Highest risk there in the yellow zone, but also the dark green zone extends for the entire state of Indiana over to Fort Wayne, down to the Richmond area, down towards Seymour. That risk for severe weather continues to go further east into Ohio and further north into Michigan, further south into Kentucky. So the entire state of Indiana, regardless of where you're at, is in a severe risk, but it is highest in yellow zones. Risks tomorrow. Number 1, damaging winds up to 60 miles per hour. Possibility there. Actually, a likelihood, I'd say, especially across the northern part of the state. We'll touch base here on the radar in just a few minutes, what it could look like, what ingredients are coming together, so on and so forth. But damaging winds, here's your number 1 concern. Number 2 concern, large hail, especially across the western zone there. We're not really in a 15% yellow risk there for hail, but it does come close to the state line. That's going to be a secondary threat there for the entire state. I do think it's highest there in the western part of the state regardless. And then also a large 2% risk for a tornado or 2 possible. I do think this could get upgraded here to a 5% for portions of the state. Let's go ahead and talk about the future radar and overall ingredients here for tomorrow evening. So this is the afternoon run of our forecast model. It's called the HRRR, the High Resolution Rapid Refresh. We're going to flip this over here to our future radar. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about what time frames to watch for. So starting with tonight, we're going to say dry, dry, dry. Tomorrow morning, dry. And then our storm system begins to develop and move in by the afternoon time frame. We start seeing development across Illinois, portions of Iowa, perhaps portions of the Gary area up there in far northwest Indiana, but that's going to be the start of the system. Now, as we get later on into the afternoon, we're going to start seeing additional storms develop. And by about 5 o'clock Eastern time, we have a nice band of what should be supercell thunderstorms developed here in Illinois, pushing our direction. As we get later on in the evening, additional storms fire up further south. And by the time we get to 7 p.m., perhaps as early as 6 p.m. Eastern, we are seeing a line or a band of storms all the way down to Evansville, all the way up into the Gary area, pushing east-northeast through the evening hours. So do take note. They arrive right around that 6 to 7 p.m. time frame, and they're going to race east-northeastward. Here's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and by about 11 o'clock or so, they are cleared out of the state. So really only a 3 to 4 hour threat here for the state. These storms are going to fly 60, probably 70 miles per hour across the state. So they're not going to be very slow movers. They're going to be very fast movers. So let's go ahead and pause it right here. As storms arrive around that 7 o'clock time frame, what do we have in place for severe weather? We look at 4 main ingredients here. We call it SLIM, shear, lift, instability, and moisture. Let's go one by one. So the shear, S in SLIM, we have an abundance of wind shear. Why is wind shear important? Well, it helps organize updrafts. It also can aid in rotation. We're going to notice a ginormous swath of wind shear here across the entire state of Indiana around that same time frame. Those storms are entering the better environment there as this system moves east. So wind shear, we have a ton of it. we're not concerned for that. Now, let's talk about lift. Lift with the storm is pretty good. We have a low pressure system, which is the center of the system of the storm that will provide that lift. It is sitting in Illinois. It is close by. We have plenty of lift to get storms up and going. Lift is no problem. Let's talk about instability. Instability to fuel the thunderstorms. We have plenty of it on the model here. We have surface-based CAPE, which is your instability, convective available potential energy, over 1,000 in spots. That is a really good amount for springtime, overlapping that with wind shear like we're looking at tomorrow. Not a good situation there for Western Indiana, but do take note, the further east this goes, the less instability becomes. By the time it reaches the eastern part of the state, we are back down to about 700 or so joules of that surface CAPE. So it does weaken with time across the state, but it was highest in Western Indiana. Let's talk about moisture. Our moisture has uptrended. And why is moisture important? Well, it acts as storm fuel as well as kind of lowers our cloud heights. So putting it all together here, we have a couple composite parameters for tornadoes and also basically it's a severe weather in general. The supercell composite, which is overlapping our wind shear instability, spits out a number based on a scale of 0 to 50. We are seeing right around anywhere from 2, 3, as much as 7, perhaps 10 in spots as these storms first enter the state of Indiana. It does weaken with time as the atmosphere does weaken as well. But do want to take note there, we could see a couple robust storms, especially around the Lafayette area, as these storms first arrive closer to that 6 to 7 p.m. time frame. Now, looking at the tornado parameters, here is where things get interesting. Check that out. We have a good amount of tornadic parameter across the state of Indiana. Why do we have that? Well, it's pretty simple. We have a lot of wind shear, and that wind shear is what we call directional wind shear, meaning it turns direction with height. That will aid in rotational updraft rotation, and also aid as well in perhaps a couple tornadoes, which is also why, going back to that risk map for tornadoes, I do think there's room for a 5% addition here across Illinois and perhaps into the Indiana area for another 5% risk for tornadic thunderstorms. We'll play it by ear, but I do want to mention that the risk for a tornado does appear to be quite high across the western part of Indiana. It does not look like an outbreak. It does not look like a strong tornado is going to be possible, but I do think there is potential for a couple tornadoes in the state tomorrow evening. So with that in mind, anyone have any questions here for me? Briefing or recapping this main time frame is going to be between 6 p.m. and about 11 p.m. West to east, these storms are going to move very quickly. The atmosphere is definitely more robust in the western part of the state where you see that yellow colored area, but the risk for severe weather does continue for the entire state tomorrow evening. All right, what about Peru, Indiana, Logansport, Fishers? All of you guys there are really close to that slight risk. In fact, I think pretty much all of you guys are within a 25-mile point of that line, which would indicate you are within that slight risk. So you are in the highest risk tomorrow. I do think your time frame in central Indiana is good. I mean, it's kind of cool you guys all asked from central Indiana. And I think your time frame there for storm arrival is going to be right around that 8 to 9 p.m. time frame. And I do think damaging winds and large hail is your main threat, although I wouldn't rule out a tornado. I would think the risk for that would be highest to your west. Same thing for Indianapolis and Bloomington. You guys are within that highest risk on the edge of it. I do think the environment is better off to the west there toward the Illinois border. So they will weaken a little bit by the time they get to you, but the environment is still very much favorable for damaging winds and large hail. And yes, even a brief tornado possible. No problem, Renee. Also, Sage, thanks you guys for tuning in. Be sure to hit the like button on your way out if you're going to head out. Otherwise, I'll be here answering some questions for a few more minutes here. Not going to stay on too long, but definitely if you guys have questions, I'll be here to answer those as long as you have them. Yes, make sure you have ways to receive warnings tomorrow. The best thing that you can do is download a weather app like the FEMA app or perhaps even the WeatherBug app. Turn it on for alerts. just have ways to receive warnings tomorrow if you don't have a weather radio. Weather radios are a great tool to have this time of year. If you don't have one, highly, highly recommend picking up on Amazon, Meijer, Walmart, local hardware store. It's about 30 to 40 bucks. It will save your life in the event of a tornado and you are unaware of the threat. So highly recommend getting it. What is the probability of a tornado in Gary? Right now, it is a 2% risk of seeing a tornado within a 25-mile point. So it's a pretty low risk. I do think there's potential for an upgrade to a 5% risk from tomorrow morning. We'll see, though. I do think Gary, though, has potential to see a couple tornadoes in the vicinity of it. It's a very good environment up there. I wouldn't be shocked to see a couple tornadoes surrounding the Gary area or perhaps in Gary. Obviously, we can't tell you where they're going to happen, but I can tell you the environment around the Gary area is pretty good. So no problem, Sage. We are here for you guys 24/7, 365. We're going to be trying to do full-time coverage here this year. So any severe warnings or any warnings for tornadoes get issued tomorrow, you're going to see more than likely Caleb on here with you guys covered with radar and walking guys through the risks and areas involved. Bedford Mitchell area. Again, you guys are all asking right from the center point of that line, the yellow green area. And again, the risk I do think is highest off to your west, close to the Illinois border. By the time it gets to you guys further east, it will be a little bit weaker environment, so to speak, overall. But I do think there's still a risk for severe weather. Damaging winds and large hail, primarily further east, would not rule out a chance of a brief tornado there. But I do think that risk is highest close to the Illinois border. Any other questions, guys? Because if not, we're going to pop out of here and call it a good stream. But otherwise, just want to get you guys briefed on this. No problem, Audrey. We all just got affected by the EF0 that is still being evaluated in Lawrence County. We had 8 tornadoes in the state of Indiana. We also, I don't have it publicly posted yet, but we do have a Google map you guys will be able to access yourselves to see where all those tornadoes happen. I'll go ahead and show you guys what I'm working on here, just because why not? But yes, I am working on a map. I will post it once I'm done. But we had 8 tornadoes here in the state of Indiana. We had 2 up here by the Gary area, an EF0 and EF1 there by Cedar Lake. We had one down here by Rockville and EF1. We had a very long track tornado here, EF2 through Oakland City. It ended up over here close to the Trinity and Indian Springs area, and also same storm produced 2 more tornadoes through the Avoca area. Then last but not least, we had an EF1 down here in the Orleans area. So we had 8 separate tornadoes. Also one over here by Seymour, Brownstown area. Forgot about that one. But regardless, 8 tornadoes is nothing to sneeze at in one night in Indiana. So I don't think tomorrow evening's threat's going to be as robust as our past weekend, but I do still think there's a shot for a couple tornadoes in the state tomorrow evening. And I'll have that map publicly probably by the end of the week this week if you guys want to pop on and look at it. Actually, what I can do, since you guys are still in chat here, I can just share the link directly to chat. It's not complete yet. I'll have to do some aesthetic touches to it, but you guys can view it if you want to. I just dropped it in both YouTube and on Facebook chat there. They added Fayetteville and Silverville to the list, I thought. In terms of separate tornadoes, no, nothing yet. These are the 8 that have been confirmed via NWS, and that's all that's been confirmed so far. If there's more, they're probably either still surveying and haven't decided yet, or it was either close or part of one of the existing tornadoes. Do you guys have outlooks on March 23rd? I heard a supercell drilling through. Ari, there was no really good way to tell you there's going to be a risk, for supercells 5 days in advance. I can go ahead and walk you through 5 days out here and kind of show you what the model is saying, which I personally don't know myself. So overall, looking at go ahead and zoom out here and kind of look at that time frame. Give me a second to get a zoomed out look. There we go. Let's go ahead and walk you through the March 23rd time frame. Yeah, there is a system coming through there. We have snow further north. We have rain further south. Let's take a look at our instability because that will tell us a lot. And the answer on the latest model here is instability stays south of the state. So as of right now, I'd say no real big risk for severe weather. But if we can get a nice surge of instability further north, perhaps maybe. But as of right now, no, I don't think that's a very good outlook that you're seeing from somebody else. Patrick, are you referring to tomorrow evening or you're referring to the 23rd? What's up, Jeannie? Good to see you in chat. Few more minutes here, guys. I'll pop out. Got questions about the upcoming risk here for the state of Indiana? Feel free to drop it in chat. Yeah, Vincent's there in the highest risk on Wednesday evening, tomorrow evening there. I do think your risk further south is more so a damaging wind and large hail risk. I think the better environment for tornadoes is going to be to your north. I'm not saying they're going to be impossible to happen, but I think they're more probable further north for you, Jeannie. I think your risk is going to be centered around damaging winds and large hail. And your time frame is going to be right around that 6 o'clock time frame or so because you're so far west. Yeah, Renee, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Nothing wrong at all. I know a lot of it can be confusing too because there's so many people between YouTube and Facebook who promote their weather content, and a lot of it actually is designed for clicks and trying to get you to click on it and try to hype something up that's not to be, and that's something that we try not to do here too often. The only time you're going to hear us talk in a hype manner is if you're actually very genuinely concerned for a high-end risk, and that has not happened yet. Jeannie, the overall risk for a tornado in Vincennes overall is pretty low. I do think it's highest off to your north. If you look at the 2% risk here from the SPC, Vincennes is included in that risk, but do note it's very close to no risk down here by Jasper, Evansville. So highest, I think, further north toward the Lafayette area, especially further north toward Gary into that Chicago metro areas in Illinois. How are you seeing that far out on the significant parameter on Mother Bell? It only shows me 12 hours. Cody, you're going to need to go back to the 18Z HRRR. Only the 18Z will go out 48 hours. Wind gust up to 60 miles per hour here. Nothing, I wouldn't expect there to be anything higher than that, maybe like 65, 66. But don't think it's going to be anything considerable, 70 plus, nothing like that tomorrow. Although the wind shear there is really good. I really do think the risk is closer to 60 miles per hour. Every day, my cat tries to get out of my room. And she gets stuck at the door. Get out of here. Get out of here. Yeah, you want back in now? Of course you do. Yeah, Jeannie. And again, I wouldn't rule out a tornado, but I think the threat is much, much higher to your north. I don't want to rule that out completely, but it's not a threat that I'd be overly concerned about, if that makes sense. All righty. One more recap, guys. We'll go ahead and pop out of here. I want to appreciate you guys tuning in. Be sure to hit the like if you're heading out. But we'll walk through everything one more time. It's a fairly simple forecast. Let's go ahead and switch back over here to the HRRR, the short-term model on the future radar. zoom into Indiana, and we'll go ahead and go over everything one last time here. So that is not what I wanted. I wanted this look. Perfect. Let's go ahead and take a full screen. SPC tomorrow has a level 2 out of 5 risk. It's called a slight risk in yellow from Gary to Lafayette, Indianapolis, Bloomington, Vincennes, Terre Haute area. That risk does extend further east as a low-end level 1 marginal risk in dark green color. So the entire state, no matter if you're from Fort Wayne, South Bend, Gary, Evansville, or Corydon, you guys are in a severe threat tomorrow. In yellow, it is highest, and that is going to be because damaging wind is the primary concern for the yellow area. Large hail is a secondary concern. It's a lower risk, but I do think there's potential for large hail tomorrow. We have a lot of, I'm not going to say a lot, but we have some steep lapse rates. Lapse rates are a ingredient we look for hail and updraft strength. So lapse rates are going to be pretty good tomorrow, which is going to indicate some hail, and some decent updrafts are going to be a possibility. But overall, risk for hail, entire state is lower than the wind, but still a risk nonetheless. And then finally, the tornado risk here is the 2%. I would expect them, based on latest guidance, to upgrade portions of Illinois and Western Indiana, perhaps this zone right here, to a 5% risk. I would expect them to upgrade that tomorrow, or for the overnight outlook tonight for tomorrow. All right. Going to the model for the hour-by-hour walkthrough, switching this over to the 18Z, we're going to walk through this hour by hour. So a dry day or dry night overnight, dry day tomorrow. We get to that late afternoon time frame, 2 p.m., perhaps a passing rain shower by Gary. That is not the main show. The main show is back here across Iowa and Illinois. Hour by hour, let's go 3 p.m., 4 p.m., 5 p.m., and by 6 p.m. we have blooming, I almost said blooming. I don't even know what I was trying to say there. We have blossoming thunderstorms here across Illinois, moving into Indiana at that 6 p.m. Eastern time frame, so 5 p.m. Central. Now going into the 7 o'clock time frame, those will continue to race eastward across the state, and by the time they get to the Ohio border, it is 11 o'clock. So risks associated: wind, primary concern; hail, secondary; a tornado or two possible as a third main time frame, 6 p.m. Eastern on the Illinois border, and they should clear the state by about the 11 o'clock time frame on the Ohio border. So 6 to 11 is the main time frame. We'll be live tomorrow on Facebook and YouTube here at ISCN for any severe or tornado warnings that get issued. Caleb has you covered here tomorrow on your forecasts. I'll be up in Michigan, more than likely work in Michigan severe threat. So we'll be doing coverage for both states tomorrow simultaneously. With that being said, you guys enjoy your evening. If you're heading out, be sure to hit the like button. I will catch you guys tomorrow here at ISCN.